We're recording. We're now getting ready to go live on Facebook. All the technology catching up with us. And here we go. I hit the live button. I know I'm going to need to mute myself in a second here. Gotta love the technology.
Got it.
There we go. We are officially live. Welcome, everyone. I am your universe channel, Amanda Kunkel, and I am joined today with my colleague, Angela, and I'm going to let her pronounce her own last name because I am famous for botching these things. But as I have said in my posts, Angela is here with us as an expert on trauma and specifically trauma healing. In fact, when Angela and I hooked up and I said, hey, I feel like there's something that my loves would just absolutely adore to connect with you on, she gave me a little list and I immediately picked out the accelerated transpersonal timeline method, not just because this is so unique, but that it's scientifically proven. And that being said, I'm going to hand this over to Angela to properly introduce herself to everybody while I man the chat. So welcome, Angela. Please feel free to pick up the stick.
Thank you, Amanda. Thank you for having me here. It's always very exciting to chat. My last name is Herenek. So I say to people, think of Rennick and then put a her in front of it. So Herenek. And it's not the easiest name. It's a Ukrainian name. That's my origin. Yeah, so the ATTM and how I came here and how we came to meet and all of that. Let us rewind or go back a little bit. And I'd say about 20 years ago, no, 27 years ago, I came into recovery from alcoholism. So I bottomed out as an alcoholic. And I had a really, really tough childhood, all kinds of mess, neglect, abuse, all that good stuff. I ended up in a recovery program and in therapy. So I have been a practicing Buddhist for over 33 years now, 34. So I was in Buddhism before I even came to my psychological recovery. And the ATTM, which is what we're going to talk about a little bit, and what I'd love to, we could trial it. We could do a little bit on it. But it came about from my own personal recovery, from my own trauma, and trauma with a small t. I want to distinguish between trauma with a small t and trauma with a big T. Because when people hear the word trauma, they think, oh my God, well, I never had any trauma. I wasn't raped. I didn't have a fire. I didn't have a car crash. Nobody died in my family. That's what people think of when they think of trauma. And I've come to learn, through my own recovery, that small t trauma is about neglect, is about day-to-day being put down, day-to-day a brother just kind of pinching you or smothering you or, punching you just a little bit every day. And it's, all in the disguise of love, but it wears you down. So I started amalgamating my Buddhism with hypnotherapy, with my psychotherapy, like 20 years ago, to come up with this method. And I brought it to my recovery community. And with my peers, we started to develop and, move and shake with, is this working? Is that working? And lo and behold, fast forward now, after about 10 years, I started using it on clients. So it took about 10 years to settle in. And then I built my whole business around it. And I have now certified people in this methodology. And I say to people, once you've uncovered all of your conscious belief systems, what's holding you back? I'm not worthy, I'm not deserving, I'm too much or whatever. Those are conscious belief systems. When we can't go any further and we still like we know there's more, but we can't get to it. That's when the ATTM comes in. We work in the unconscious. So that's sort of the genesis of the ATTM. My journey has been, you know, all over the map, meaning I was in Canada, born in Canada, raised in Canada, 30 years on the West Coast. And then I moved to Australia for 15 years. And now I'm in Costa Rica. So, you know, geographically, I've been gridding the planet with my, just my being. And there you go. That's a little bit. I mean, I've had tremendous ups and tremendous downs in the 30 odd years of being in business as a spiritual guide, as a spiritual mentor, as a spiritual therapist. And I've had the great good fortune to work with some of the world's leading luminaries, the Dalai Lama, Bishop Tutu, the United Nations, Olympians. So there's a thumbnail for you.
I love that. And I remember the first time when you had said you worked with the Dalai Lama, I remember literally like my jaw literally dropping like on the Zoom call. I think we were on with a bunch of colleagues. And I was sitting there and going, this is spectacular. Well, of course, this is scientifically proven. And that being said, this method, is this sort of a one and done, or is it like a course of sessions together to bring about the most change? How does it work per se?
It's not a one and done. That is for sure. The best is, you know, you'd use it 3 times a week. It's a modality. It's like, you know, it's combining hypnotherapy with psychology and Jungian journeying with imagery from Tibetan Buddhism. So, you know, some people could say it's a meditation. I kind of veer away from that because meditation is very single pointed, and this one is a journey.
Mm-hmm.
There are variations. So, you know, the first time somebody does this, when we go into the unconscious and we meet that part of them, you know, that's great. But usually the first time we do it with somebody, we're going to get the top level. It's just like, it's like the part of us that wants to please, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like the little child in us. It's like, I want to be appearing like I'm happy and I'm joyful and I, you know, I've got a really good face and all that. And as we use it more and more and more, that's when the real information gets revealed. And there's many variations with it. So we work with parents, you know, working with, you know, like working with the energy of our parents from the past. We work with energy of relationships. So you can call up your spouse's unconscious as you're sitting there with them. So, and also that, I mean, to me, the most brilliant part of it is that we can change our past.
Yeah.
Okay. So that we're not prisoner to our past. And that is a variation that takes a while. You know, it takes time to build trust with the unconscious. And as soon as that starts happening, then we can start moving into, okay, you know, this piece of my childhood, I really didn't like. And we can go in there because memory is 2 parts. Memory is energy and memory is also image, right? So the image never changes, but the energy can change. So that's what we go in and work with. And lo and behold, you can create new memories from your past, right?
Yeah. Yeah. What I really love when you mentioned how this is a journey, it also sounds like for the rest of your life, to whatever degree you choose, it's kind of a lifestyle change too.
Yes, I would definitely say, like this morning in my meditation, you know, I've been, what is this? Like it's from 2000, 24 years. 24 years later, I'm still using it on a daily basis. And I'm still getting new information about me from the past. Like the other day, I was doing it, and all of a sudden, this little girl shows up, and she's wearing this cute little gold outfit with these, you know, corduroy pants. She's got this black. I'm like, holy Dinah, like you got it going on, little one, right? I don't know where that image came from. It's just beautiful, right? So there's
Yeah.
always surprises. It's never I mean, it can get tedious when we're trying to work through some energy that's really, really dense. And that's
Yeah.
where you have to have patience. However, yeah, I would say it is a lifestyle change, and it is for you to accompany you,
Yes.
and it's all, yeah, it's always there. It's always there for you. And I
It,
continue to use it. And yeah.
I love how, as you're speaking into this, I'm really getting that I mean, it's part of you. It's not separate from you. And so, unlike a book well, I guess we don't actually have physical audio tapes anymore, but you can't lose it. It's not going to get lost in a move or end up between the cracks of the seat in your car. It's always there with you,
Yeah.
called up whenever you desire.
Well, and I think that's precisely. And like, you start off with an audio recording, or you start off with a wisdom coach that takes you through it. Then you get so familiar with the process
Yeah.
that you can take your mind down into, just like self-hypnosis, right? You can go there at any moment, walk down the stairs, walk into this garden. Like it's a series of stages and steps. And you don't need a tape. You don't need a download after a
Yeah.
certain amount of time. It's like, and I mean, I always say to people when they're struggling, like, okay, what age do you feel right now? What age do you feel? And, people are like, well, I don't know. And with this technique, you can close your eyes, run down the stairs,
Mm,
and immediately find out how old you feel,
yeah.
right? In any given moment, because that's going to tell you where the wound is that you need to clean up. Because there's
Yeah.
6 stages of childhood. And this correlates for me with the 6 stages of childhood, where, between the ages of 0 and 7, everything is getting implanted in us. Everything in the subconscious mind. We are such sponges, right? And so if there's something now, present tense, when you're 40, 50, 60, that's not working, you got to go back and just say, okay, where did it get blocked? How can I just release the energy and have that power back?
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, and that's what it's really all about, is how can I be most empowered in this day, in this
Yeah.
body right now, right? I don't want to be a prisoner of my past, whether it's belief systems or incidents or situations that happen to me. Like, it's over, but it's not, because it's still in the unconscious unless you transform it. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And I know, at least for me, and I've shared with people that for me, I've had trauma with a big T and trauma with a little t. But what about those who don't identify with either of those, that felt that they had a pretty good childhood first 7 years? Is this method something that would be beneficial for them too?
Absolutely. Like, people have to come to understand that in the West, where we're living, we're being traumatized just by living life. Okay. We've got systemic trauma. We've got political trauma. We've got economic trauma. So it's not, again, like, it doesn't have to have come from childhood. How we react, I mean, trauma is really not what happened to us, but how we chose to deal with the feelings
Mm,
with the trauma, not even
yeah.
the event, but what did we make of what happened to us? What were the feelings that happened? So I mean, racism, right? Okay, you could have had a perfect childhood, and you're living in a racist education system. So you get picked on, you're bullied, right? So that's going to cause trauma. Your parents are beautiful. They provide for you. They're joyful. They're empowered. And then you get hit back by the system. It could be political, like you could have grandparents and parents fighting over politics, and you're a child and you're watching this and you don't even realize that it's informing you. It's forming your character. That
Yeah.
adults that you love are not in agreement, and you don't understand. So then you grow up thinking, okay, I'm gonna be conflict avoidant because I want to love both my grandparents and my parents, or mom and dad. I mean,
Yeah.
divorce rate is so high in the West.
Yeah.
It's really hard pressed not to find a child or an adult now who doesn't come from a broken home, or parents that separate. that will cause some level of your psyche to have to adjust it. I mean, let's normalize trauma. That's really what I'm trying to say is that it happens all the time, except that we deny it. We pretend it doesn't happen. We pretend that we didn't get affected. We try and rise above it, especially in spiritual communities. Like this is a pet have, right? I mean, and this is what I did. I'm the first one to put my hand up, is I turned to Buddhism to try and solve my pain.
Yeah.
From my childhood. Now, I had psychological pain. I didn't necessarily have spiritual pain, but I went there and I kept overriding the pain through
Mm-hmm.
the messaging that I was getting from Buddhism is, oh, just love everybody, be compassionate and be
Yeah.
peaceful, right?
Yeah.
And so for 7 years, I kept thinking, I'm just not getting Buddhism. It's not going in. Something must be wrong with me that I can't get Buddhism. Well, the fact is that Buddhism is perfect, just the way it is. It's me needing psychological help, to heal these parts. The beautiful thing about ATTM is that it heals both the psychological and the spiritual. So yeah, and it was a therapist that said to me, look, you're never going to heal your alcoholism through prayer. Yeah, it's biological,
Yeah.
neurological, theological, as well as spiritual and emotional.
Yeah.
But prayer is not going to touch the physiology of it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And are your folks online here, are they getting what we're talking about
Yes. So
in terms of
far
the
we had a couple people pop on, no comments yet. And I just typed in, like, dear viewers, I would love to hear how familiar this is. Is this popping for you? I know,
yeah.
yeah, that positive, the positive spirituality or the positive psychology, where it's like you almost just put like icing over what really needs to be transformed. And so this is where I really nerd out. And what really got me excited about this method when you first mentioned it to me was like, tell me, you just did a clinical trial. Like the nerd in me is so excited about this.
Yes.
Tell me about that. Can you give me give us a little bit of how this played out in the clinical trials?
So, okay, so we have an unstable connection right now. I think we're both
Yes.
getting very excited.
Yes. Yeah, we're breaking the internet. It's okay.
So I was exceptional results from my clients, right?
Yeah.
People were transforming and changing and very empowered. And this is years of this, like, probably a decade worth of historical results. And a scientist said to me, well, why don't you do a trial on it? And I'm like, well, how do you do that? Like, I'm not a scientist. Like, that's not my thing. And he said, well, you just have to study the people under certain conditions, and he named the conditions. And so we gathered together 30 people. At the beginning of the trial, we had different instruments. They're called instruments to measure people's feelings and experiences around codependency and addictions, but mainly codependency.
Okay.
And I don't know whether you can hear me right now. I don't know whether I'm
I can.
focusing.
You are good. I can hear you.
Yes. Okay. You can keep hearing me. Okay. So we found a questionnaire. It was called the Spam-Fisher questionnaire to measure people's emotions around people pleasing, around receiving gifts easily, around indecisiveness, around making decisions, around overly compensating or being too helpful or too responsible in a relationship. These are all
Yeah.
signs of codependence. And
Yeah.
the majority of my clients, those who have suffered trauma, automatically become codependent or addictive. They have an
Yeah.
addictive part to their personality. So beginning of the trial, we gave them this Span-Fisher questionnaire. There's 16 questions. And on a scale of 1 to 6, we said, okay, where are you fitting on the scale? At 6 weeks, Mark, we also tested them and said, how do you feel now? After they have had 3 doses of the ATTM, 3 times a week, a 15-minute session with a wisdom coach, and new education. So it's not, like, you not only want to kind of reveal or get rid of the old, you got to put in something new. So we had a program with video modules and stuff. So with those 3 components, new education, 3 times a week of the ATTM, and a wisdom coach, 15 minutes. At the 6-week mark, we then tested them. And their results were, they were starting to, be more decisive. They started to have boundaries. They started to be able to accept compliments. So we could see there was a trajectory. So in 6 weeks' time, we had a 12.6% positive change in behavior. Then we continued for another 6 weeks. And at the 12-week mark, we had a 20% change in certain of the behaviors in a positive direction across the board. Like, we had 30 participants. So, of course, 1 or 2 participants may have not had positive results in each question. However, the majority changed by 20% in a 3-month period. Then we said, okay, we're not going to give you the method anymore, and we're not going to give you the teachings, and we're not going to give you the coaching, but we're going to test you in 12 more weeks and see how you're doing. And so 12 weeks later, so that's like a half a year in total, 24 weeks into the trial, we tested them again on all of the same questions. Lo and behold, the change rate had stuck at it, like it was like 20%. They didn't slide back. They kept hold of the change.
Yeah.
Right. So we took it to statisticians, because the scientists I was working with said, well, that's great. You've got this anecdotal evidence. You've got these graphs. You've got, your percentages. But really, we got to go to statisticians who know statistically whether or not the changes are significant, whether or not what you did was. So we went to 2 statisticians at the the McMaster University in Hamilton, and gave them the data. And they came back and they were like blown away. They said, this data is statistically significant, which means that 9 people out of 10 will change. And there's a p-value, like they've got some kind of p-value is less than 0.05, which apparently is like phenomenal, because it's usually whatever. And so they were really enthusiastic, which made, and I've always known, and anybody who's ever worked with this with their clients, because I've obviously trained people in it, they've had results too. All of a sudden we have actual results. We can say unequivocally that if you work with us for three months, like 12 weeks, you will have a 20% change across the board from negativity to positivity around codependence. And most of what's ailing the Western world right now is codependence. And some people, even with their addictions, like one person was alcohol dependent. She quit alcohol in that time period. She quit smoking weed. There was another person who was smoking weed all the time, right? And it was like, because all this positive stuff was happening, it was like, I can let go of my crutches. I don't need them anymore.
Yeah.
Right. And facing what it was that was blocking us, our lack of worthiness, our lack of observability. Why do we have to always people please? Or why do we always have to, look for approval outside of ourselves? It's an inside job.
And
so
when people come to work with you, what have they tried before? Is it like traditional psychotherapy, maybe something down the woo-woo path? Where are they usually coming from that they've tried and just haven't gotten the results they wanted?
Well, to be honest, a lot come from Landmark. So Landmark is like a big forum where people go to try and change their psychology. And
Okay.
they get excited, but it just doesn't go deep enough. Or they're coming from a spiritual path, right?
Okay.
They're coming from psychics, channelers, meditators, that kind of trying to heal the
Hmm.
psychological with the spiritual. Or
Yeah.
like they're phenomenal. I mean, this was me. And you know, you might recognize yourself in here, and your clients definitely will, is that we're amazing channelers. We have an amazing ability to bring in life force, and we can hear the messages, but we land it right to here. It just comes this far.
Yeah.
And we don't get it right deep in the lower chakras, which is where we have to take action from.
Hmm.
So
Absolutely.
most of the people that I was working with were able to be really high channelers and really able to, you know, speak with all kinds of energies, but they couldn't make any money because they couldn't bring the energy down through their lower chakras into their body. And that was me.
Yeah.
I mean, that was me in my 20s. That was me why I drank. It's sort of like drinking helped me be in my body. So
Yep.
it's very interesting. And people that are usually, and I use this word codependent, and I should break it down. Codependence is really, really all those behaviors of putting others before yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah.
not in a healthy way. Not, it's a old Judeo-Christian philosophy that has gone
Yes.
out of whack.
Yes.
Right? Especially for women, and the majority of my clients are women. Like we help, we please, we take care, we help, please take care. We put ourselves last. We think we're doing great, and it gets us nowhere. It
Yeah.
gets us resentful. It gets us being martyrs. It gets us sick. It gets us having breast cancer. It's like it's got to stop. It's just got to stop. So those are the folks that I've seen miracles. I have just seen miracles with the ATTM and the people that I've worked with, no matter where they come from. People
What I
stopping their pain medication, for instance.
Yes. And what I love is, especially for those of us have right, we've tried, it's like you've tried everything, right? And like we're saying, and nothing works. And so they come to this with a feeling a little probably burnt out already, right? From trying. And
Yep.
what it
Yeah.
sounds like is there's no trying in this. Like, yes, there's showing up for yourself. Yes, there's showing up for these treatments, but you're not going to sit there and be like, tell me about your childhood or tell me about your trauma every day or every other day for the next several months. Like, there's not going to be any of that. And that
This,
sounds fantastic.
yeah, yeah, yes. And I say to people that my darling, I can't hear you.
Oh, there we go. How about there? Can you hear me
There we go.
now?
There we go.
Beautiful.
I can hear you now.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
The internet was like, all right, you guys are bringing way too much amazingness. We are still recording. Let me see. I think we might still be live. Just gonna go ahead and refresh. our Facebookery friend here. I'll do it from my phone.
It says we're live.
It says we're live. Yep, it looks like we are still going. All right, perfect. It is just a little bit behind, and that is okay.
It's all good.
Now
I'll finish my thought.
yes.
So we were talking about, the people having tried all kinds of therapies and like how does this one work? And I was beginning to say that the place that we're healing is pre-verbal inside of ourselves. So when the wounds happened, we didn't have any language.
Yeah.
Right? We just had the pure emotion, we had the pure energy of experience. Right? And those of you who are into quantum physics know that energy can then create shapes and forms. Trauma will create a certain form energetically.
Yeah.
And it's up to us to have to go back and pull apart the energy, the creation of the pattern of energy, not through words, right? So we do it through symbolism. We do it through just visualizing and going into the quantum field and repositioning the symbolism within our subconscious.
Yeah.
And it sounds really like out there and wow and woo and all that. And it is, it's pretty friggin' amazing. And it's super simple. I was talking to one of my mentors and I was explaining the modality. And I said, I think we go into the 6th and 7th dimension. It's definitely beyond the 5th and, blah, blah, blah. And, we're on the 3rd right now. And she's like, she just tuned in and she said, no, darling, you're going straight to source. You're going straight into possibility of all that is. So we go in to the energetics of maybe, a sister who always stole things from us, for instance, or, a mother that combed our hair too strongly and somebody who combs your hair too strongly day after day after day, there's a resentment that builds up. It's just tiny, but then you get afraid of hairbrushes or you don't want to be around women or like, it's just something small that can build, right?
Yes.
So all of a sudden we got to go back and change the energy of that. Now, your sister may not show up to reform that memory, but the pain or the energy will, right?
Yeah.
And so we go back into source and say, all right, I want to reposition this energy the way I want to position it. And I always say to the class, okay, so what would you choose now? What would you choose now? Oh, well, I'd love my hair to be just brushed really softly and smoothly. And my mom gives me a great big cuddle. And then we go and have an ice cream. And I say, okay, well, let's make that happen. And that's the power of the unconscious. That as a teacher, that, it's in the unconscious that people need to shift things so that on the 3rd dimension, where there's materiality, that gets manifest. That's where it gets manifest. So it's not talk therapy. It's completely an interior journey. And other than having somebody guide, do this and what are you seeing now and answering questions.
Yeah.
It's not, oh, well, so what happened to you when you were 3 years old? Tell me about your
Right.
mother's,
Yes. Yes.
we've done that work. People usually who come to me have done that work.
Exactly. And so it feels like when they come to you, it's just this like breath of fresh air, this nice cool shower after, working out in the sun all day. And I'm just vocalizing this here because it's like somebody watching needs to hear, like, hey, this is not going to be a repeat of things you've tried. It's not going to be, oh, maybe this will work. It's not going to be, oh, now she's going to make me talk about my childhood again and make me do a zillion affirmations every day, all day. Like, nope, just imagine yourself with that refreshing, with that lightness, with that beautiful shower.
I had a
That,
client, that came, we're down in Costa Rica and she had done some ayahuasca. And, with the promise that she was going to have this breakthrough, I think she did it 3 times in a week. And then we
okay.
met at this retreat center, and I was talking about what I do and everything. And she said, to be honest, like I've done all this work and it didn't do
Yep.
very much. And I didn't get any integration. Like nobody helped me through it.
Yeah.
And I said, well, let's do a session. And she kept saying, will you promise me that something will happen? Will you promise me that something will happen? Right. And it's like, well, and I said, yes, that's how much I believe in this. And I said, yes, I promise you that something will happen and shift. And we weren't 10 minutes in, and she was bawling her eyes out. And she was like, and I was able to talk with her. And then at the end, I said, so did something happen? And she was like, oh my God. She said, like, you took me further, quicker in, this 1/2 hour, this 1 hour
Yeah.
session than those 3 ayahuasca sessions. Right.
Yep.
So I'm not anti ayahuasca and I'm not anti, like plant medicine. I'm just saying that we don't have to go there to get in touch with what we need to.
It is simpler, it is shorter, it is less intense on your body and your mind. Yeah,
Yes.
I
Yeah.
say same thing, same thing. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that. And it can be
Yeah.
that simple. We have to let our 3D human minds be, it can be simple. It doesn't have to be this big, long, painful 10-step process that is going to break you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like I call it the ATTM, and people may want to know, what does that stand for? So
Yep.
it stands for the Accelerated Transpersonal Timeline Method. So it's an accelerated journey. Transpersonal means psychological and spiritual. So there's a whole, science around transpersonal behavior and blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
Transpersonal, and then we jump timelines. So we can jump into the future, we can jump into the past, we can say in the present tense. We're jumping timelines, changing them, and it's a method. So the ATTM. And when I was asking for guidance on what to name it, I didn't know what transpersonal meant. And I was like, okay, I know it's accelerated. And like, what? And then this download came, and it was like, it's transpersonal. I was like, what does that mean? I don't, and I
Hey,
had to go look
Mr.
the word
Google.
up. Yeah, I had to look it up.
Yeah,
And I
same.
thought, that's what it is. That's exactly what it is. So yeah.
And what an even more solidifying moment for all of ourselves whenever we are, because everyone watching this is a creator of some sort, right? A creator, a transformer. There we go. Oh, so this nudge that I just got, and I went and I checked it out. Of course it's perfect. Of course. So if you're sitting here watching this, whether you're live or on replay, and you're getting that, like, oh, of course, please hashtag of course. Please let us know what questions you have too. Angela and I will kind of keep up on the chat here for, let me say, like 24 hours or so in case anyone pops back around. And we'd love to love on your ahas here too. If you're having any breakthrough moments, we'd love to aha on them with you too, because this is the work. This is the work to allow in that life that you desire.
Precisely. And I think that, you just brought up a really great point, which is the nudges or the symbolism that we might, like the eagle feather that falls on our path. I had one person say, I stumbled across an eagle feather. Do you think that means anything? No, she said, I stumbled across this eagle feather and I just let it be there. And then I walked into my house, and it was a really windy day, and it was super windy. And I came out in the morning and it was still there. Do you think it had any meaning for me? And I'm like, girlfriend, like, yeah. So she thought it might have meaning, but she didn't pick it up. Right.
Mm.
So it's the yes. The universe is always talking to us.
Yes, and
Always.
more. Yep.
Yes, different dimensions. Like we're operating multidimensionally, and we're getting information multidimensionally. Our 3D part might not have come down into us yet,
Yeah.
right? That information, it's still in the whatever other dimension, and it's going to take some time to come into the physical for us to then act on it. That's the most infuriating thing I find about being human.
Yes, I agree with you. And I recently started doing a thing where I make it play for myself. Like I make it try to be fun and take the seriousness off of, okay, now I really want this right now. Let me bring it down, right? I'm like, ooh, that's just not gonna get me there. Like, have some fun. Let's
Exactly.
bring this from the heart.
Exactly. I your folks would be very, very familiar with vision boards, I'm sure. You make the vision board and then you live into the vision of it.
Yeah.
The next step after that is mind movies.
Mm-hmm.
So again,
We're doing it.
we're working with our unconscious mind.
Yeah.
So I recently made a mind movie upgrading some of my belief systems to a global level.
Mm.
And I was doing it too much. I was watching the mind movie too much because
Oh,
my conscious, and this is where you have to have a guide. This is where you
yeah.
need people like you and me to sort of give you some, like parameters or boundaries, like, because you don't know what's going on.
Bumpers. Yep.
And so, and thankfully I have all kinds of friends, like yourself, who were, I explained what I was experiencing. They were like, yeah, like you've messed your basement up a little bit too fast. Like there's a lot that's been stirred in there. And sure enough, I didn't watch the mind movie for a day or two, and things started to calm down, because the unconscious is so powerful and has so much information in there for us to unpack and to recalibrate and to, like, alchemize into all of that. And we can do damage. We can do it
Mm-hmm.
too quick. We can get over it. We can, you know, we think, mention more is better. And we don't
Mm.
trust, you know?
Yeah. And what a great reminder
So,
that like it's okay to take that pause, that break, even if 2 hours, half a day, a week, whatever it is. Like go
yes,
ahead and take it just like anything else, right? It's all good to take the break.
have some fun, like you said. And in the end,
Yeah.
it is a game. It is a game,
Yeah.
right? Like, how do you want to play it? How do you want to show up as the main character? Maybe you don't want to be a main character today. Maybe you want to sit on the sidelines. That's okay. There's, like, it's all good. And then I always say, if you feel benched, if you feel like the divine has put you on the bench and you're not on the court, like playing the basketball court, that's okay. There's a reason for that. Just sit, watch the game for a little while, right?
Yeah.
Learn what others are doing, and then your energy will get reconstituted. You'll be able to jump up and get back in the game, and you'll be better for it.
Yeah.
There's just no way we can go 4/7, 365, year after year after year. It's just
Yeah.
no physical phenomenon, no natural phenomenon can do that. There are
Yeah.
cycles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's definitely a societal thing too, that we have been ingrained in us since we were itty bitty. Work, 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 martyrism. Yeah. Not
Yeah.
asking for
Well, and this goes
help.
back. Exactly. And this goes back to the trauma, right? We traumatize ourselves by the beliefs that we've swallowed. They're myths, they're lies. We have to throw them up, change them, decide for ourselves. And then we have to expunge the trauma that we felt because of them. We create our own suffering in some ways, but we don't know that we're doing it until we know that we're doing it.
Yeah.
And then we can change it.
There's
Yeah.
yeah, we perceive what we want to perceive, and we're going to believe what we want to believe, and we will always find evidence for what we want to find evidence for. So
Always.
what do you want your default to be? Are you always looking for drama, or are you always in the frequency,
Mhm.
in the
Mhm.
vibe, in the love, whatever it is? It's different for
Yeah.
everyone.
Well, and again, to be aware of that spiritual override, right?
Mhm.
Like it's a human spiritual journey. It's neither one only or the other
Checking in
only.
with
It's
yourself.
that
Yep.
beautiful dance. It's the dance between the two. And I'm sure you get frustrated. I mean, I know I get so frustrated with my humanness, right? My spirit, my mind is vast and big and beautiful, and I see all these things, and then it's like I'm impatient with my
Mhm.
human, the physicality. And I'm not the only one. I mean, and most of the clients that I attract seem to be similar to me, right? And I'm continually saying, just be patient. It is coming. It's
Mhm.
like you order a pizza, you pick the phone up and you order the pizza. Well, the pizza guy has to cook the pizza, has to find the ingredients, and then has to come to your door. You can't just dial up for a pizza and it just, I mean,
Yeah.
if you're highly qualified, yeah, that's the name of the game. However, you got to put your order in first.
Yeah, you got to sit with where you be first.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
always do this thing, and I have my clients do this thing, so we don't spiritually bypass, which is the checking in with the body, checking in with the heart, having that door in the heart open.
Mhm.
So it's like, your source, your God, whomever, right, speaking to and through you, but also okay, what is this really telling me? What do I really need today? Like, do I really do I really need to go and just listen to some heavy metal on, blast in my car? Because, like, yeah, sometimes that's the answer.
That's right. Yep. Yep.
Screaming music, right?
Yeah.
And 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 then the transmutation, right? It without trying, right? And then just each moment checking back in. What do I need now? What do I need now? Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. And then next level, then the unconscious shows up, more information. You don't understand it. You got to get quiet again. And next level, next level, next level. Because I maintain every time, I mean, all spiritual growth is about expansion, right? And how much we let go of. So
Yeah.
when we hit that next place of, okay, I desire, I don't want to be attached, but I desire something. We got to let go of something else, right?
Yes. Yes. I just made a post on this today about, we're no longer beginners, right? We're next, we're seeing things with different eyes from a different level of ourselves, right? Not against someone else's level, but where we want and where we want to be. And so, well, there's that phrase, next level, same devil. At the same time, but it's also brand new because you've got the new eyes and the new tools.
Yeah, like in one person's lifetime, like I'll take my life. I've probably had 3 incarnations, 3 specific lives that have ended and then begun again, right? So when we're young, especially in our 20s, we don't know that. We think this is it. This is like, oh, I got it. It's like there's going to be an ending, and then there's going to be a new birth, and then
Mhm.
there's going to be another ending and a new birth. And I mean, that's the beauty of age. That's the beauty of reincarnation. That's the beauty of wisdom, right?
Right.
Like, yeah, it's
Yeah.
we continue. We continue.
Yes, yes, exactly. And I know you're going to share some information on, and definitely posting your contact information on how people can reach out if they're like, oh, wait, this is definitely something I want to lean into. But I also know you brought something a little special and fun to share as well.
Yes. Okay. So I'm putting it in the Zoom chat, but are you able to put it into the email or not,
I
Facebook?
I should be able to. We have the technology. We'll get my little mouse to wake up here. And by mouse, I mean this mouse. It's me. People really question when I make animal references. It's all
Let's just
good.
see if I can. Okay, I might be able to actually.
Oh, you're getting into
Um,
Facebook?
do it. Yeah, I'm thinking I can
All
do
right.
this. Copy link. Here I am in
Love it.
Facebook. Okay. And then I just put, let's just see. I'm gonna paste this in and see. Enlightenment and money, click funnels, it's completely caught up. I don't see if it got caught. But I'll tell viewers, the people that watch this on
It's
repeat.
there. Yep,
Excellent.
it's
Okay,
there.
so
Sorry about that feedback, but yep, it's there.
just like Amanda, you work with materiality, abundance, and materiality, prosperity. This is a 40-day prosperity possibility plan. And I learned this back in 1994. Like, that's how old this is. And there's a story that goes with it. I was in the matrix. I was working really, really hard as a publisher sales rep. I was
Oh,
making loads of contacts and sales and all of that, but I couldn't make more money for me. I was making money for the publishers. And I came home one day and there were 24 messages on my answering machine. And in those days, you had an answering machine. And I thought, how do people do this? How do they get ahead? I have the same 24 hours that anybody else does, and I can't make more money because of this. And I was, like sincerely working my butt off, and I was making $250,000 for other people, but not for me.
yeah.
And that's when a friend said, yeah, well, you're going to have to change the whole paradigm in which you're operating in, from out of the matrix to having support from the divine. And I'm like, okay, well, what does that mean? So these meditations, this is 10 meditations that are repeated 4 times. And each meditation slowly brings you high, closer and closer into your alignment with your source energy, into your divinity, to actually feel it, so that you can let go of the matrix way of seeing how you manifest, right? You don't have to work harder. It's not about working harder. It's not about getting a third job. It's not about, how much you can do, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's actually the opposite. But the opposite
Yeah.
brings up fear and belief systems around worthiness and deservability and all that. So I started doing this plan, and I was about 30 days in, and my rent was due in 2 days. And I've been doing it 30 days. And I was sitting at my altar, and I'm like, this isn't working. You show me the money now. I was railing at God. I was like, this isn't effing working. And the phone rang right then. And I was like, this is not exaggerating. And the phone rang, and I picked it up, and it was a friend of mine. Her name was Marcy. And she said, Ange, I am wondering if you can edit my master's thesis, because I was also an editor at the time. And I'm like, yeah, sure, Marcia, no problem. She said, the thing is, Ange, I gotta come over right now and give you the money, right? I got the money now, but I gotta pay you in advance, basically. And I'm like, Marcia, you can't believe what you're saying. Please come over right now. I'll tell you the whole story. So my rent was $430 in those days. How much do you think she came over to bring me?
The
She
exact
came,
amount.
no, she came over $400. So I had $30 that I had to find in 2 days, right? So the universe doesn't always bring exactly right to the limit what you want, but enough to kind of keep me on the road. It's like, okay. And then I remember meditating in doing these 40-day meditations.
Yeah.
And I remember, and again, this is me channeling and talking to God. And I'm like, so you're telling me that if I meditate, that you're going to pay my rent? And the answer came back, yes. Yeah, that's what's going to happen. So I was 25 years old then.
Yeah.
And from that point all the way till this, it's, you live this way, I live this way. But people who are on the cusp of worry and, can I, should I, this is freedom. Freedom comes with responsibility. It's not all, unicorns and bubbles.
Mm-hmm.
And it's freedom. It is freedom. So
Yeah.
that's what this gift is. That's what this gift is for people. It's the 40-day prosperity plan. And I offer it to your peeps, and I hope they enjoy it. I'd love to hear from them and what they get from it. And yeah, and like I would love to work with people if they're interested in the ATTM. I'll put my email in the Facebook group or in the Facebook stream right now. And they will also be in touch with me, obviously, through, you'll get emails through this 40-day plan. And if people specifically want to know more about the ATTM, 100%, I have programs that deal with that. I've got a 3-month program. I've got a 30-day program. And I've got wisdom coaches. So I'm certifying people in this modality. If there's anybody out there who's interested, like they've done all kinds of work and now they want to be certified in something, there's a certification. And then we're also doing a 2nd level trial. So this year, later in the year, we're doing a controlled level trial. So we're having 3 arms now, not just the one.
Yeah.
To make it even more strict, and we're having 160 participants. So it's a bigger deal, bigger money, and we need more wisdom coaches. We need wisdom coaches to come and hold people's hands as they do the modalities. So happy to talk to somebody about any of that.
That's awesome. Thank you. And thank you for not just coming and sharing today, but bringing this to the world at this time. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks for the invitation. And I'm loving being in the container with you and being in your sphere of influence. And I love, thank you. Just thank you. I'm very, very grateful. And I look forward to meeting your peeps. So blessings.